Hi everybody, welcome to Nitro headquarters. I'm Neil and together we're going to be looking at the HSP Bug Crusher. Now I have a box here. This is what it comes in. It's quite a big box, so get ready for a big package to arrive through the door if you buy one of these. So let's open it up and see what we have inside. Inside our box we've got our model straight away on show, nicely packaged in with these beefy cardboard protectors. I think there's some more cardboard underneath the chassis of the truck, and also I think we have the radio gear in this package here. So I'll take these out of the box and let's take a closer look when we've got them unpacked. So having taken the contents out of the box, what do we have? We have a steer wheel controller, which is a 2.4 gigahertz version, so we'll talk about that in a few minutes, so I'll set that aside. We've also got a detailed user manual, and in there is also an antenna tube. Now it's really important with any of these vehicles to read this and make yourself fully conversant and familiar with the instructions before you get started with running the vehicle. I know it's kind of a bit of a dull thing to say, but I can't stress that enough. Okay, so moving on to the main event. Well, this is what it's all about, the truck itself. Now this one is a monster truck variant, so we've got a nicely detailed articulated monster truck body shell in a great colour scheme. I mean, this is quite a menacing colour scheme with the black and the blue. There is another body shell version of this, which is a pickup truck, and that's a slightly different colour, so I'll get that on and you can take a look at that. This is the flatbed pickup style body shell, and whichever body shell or body style you choose, underneath the chassis is essentially the same. So it's really just how you'd like your car to look. That's the only choice you really need to make. Okay, so let's take the body shell off and take a look at the layout of what you find underneath. With the body shell off, we can start to appreciate what this truck is all about. Not only do you have the hint of the big wheels on the outside, but when you do get underneath the body shell, you start to appreciate the extra detail in the twin shocks, for example, on each corner of the car. Now, the size of the wheels will give it a certain amount of off-road capability, but then when you couple that to the shock absorber system and the amount of suspension travel, you really do start to have a vehicle that is capable of dealing with the roughest of terrain. Now, one of the interesting features as well that I've never seen before anywhere else is the way that the bumper bars on both the front and rear are mounted. They have small springs attached and are actually compressible both on the front and the rear. So if you do get into trouble and you do collide with something, you're going to be able to absorb some of the shock through that unique system there. And I like the way that the bumpers do extend beyond the shock absorbers, so that really does offer the shock absorbers some additional protection. Okay, so let's look at the overall layout of the running internals on the chassis. And where better to start than the chassis itself? It's a machined solid piece of alloy, which is nicely detailed and anodized blue. We have a hole underneath, so if you wanted to upgrade an engine later on to a non-pull start, you'd be able to fit a starter box on there. And it provides a really good heat sink for the motor, which we'll talk about now. So back onto its wheels, what do we have on the top? As it comes supplied with a Team Infinity 18 pull start motor. A very strong, powerful motor, this one, and we are pleased to have hooked up with a Team Infinity to supply our engines, which are really a cut above anything else in the market. A real strong and reliable performer. That is coupled to a metal exhaust manifold, and then to a composite pipe which is on a flexible mount. You might not be able to appreciate it, but there is a certain amount of movement that you can get on there, and these are really particularly tough pipes. Okay, if I move the truck around, we can then have a look at the fuel tank. Fuel tank is actually quite a large size for this engine, so you're going to get plenty of run time there. And if you look at the lid, you'll see there's a little slit there in the lid of the fuel tank. and you'd be able to get a cable tie on there and remotely open that lid and refuel the truck without having to take the buggy off. So that's a nice little detail that's been included. Okay, let's move on to the gearbox and take a quick look at that. Now I've just taken off the air filter to give you a better view of the gearbox. Now interestingly here we have an all metal spur gear and reduction gears attached to a slipper clutch. Now that's really important when you get into vehicles of this scale, particularly with big wheels. You need to have a slipper clutch and a really strong gearbox, because without those you could run into trouble. But we insist that we specify only the best for our bug crusher models. Okay, attached to the gearbox is a nice, neat brake system. I'm just trying to get into there. You might just be able to see the brake pad on a rotary disc, and that acts on a central shaft. So when you do brake, the braking effect is on all four wheels of the car. Okay, so turning the car around, we'll have a look down the other side. On the other side of the car we've got the steering servo, which is laid down onto the chassis, which is nice and low, and then just behind that we have the enclosed radio box. One of the cool features about this particular truck is that it works on 2.4 gigahertz frequency, and that actually means, among other things, is that the aerial wire is very short, so we don't have to have one of these huge long aerial tubes sticking out of our truck and spoiling the appearance of it. So that's nice and short. So on the top of our radio box we've got a nice on-off switch, and within this enclosed box is going to be the radio receiver and the batteries that power the two servos. Lastly, at the back of the car we have the stood-up throttle servo, which also activates the brake that we've touched on slightly earlier. So let's have a closer look at some of the detail features that you find on this truck. Now I just want to remind you that although this is the standard truck, it has all of the adjustability of the more expensive Pro version, okay? So you're not missing out on any of the adjustability of the truck. So let's take a look. I've taken the wheel off this front corner, as you can see, and I just want to point out a few of the detail things here that's worth noting. So looking at a little bit more detail now in the construction of the truck. This is the front corner, and there's a whole host of adjustable features on this truck. Now I wanted to touch on at least some of them, but there are far too many for me to cover in this video. But essentially we'll start off with this pillow ball arrangement in the front suspension. And now a pillow ball essentially means that there's a ball inside the hub at the top and also a ball at the one at the bottom, and that means that the suspension travel is very smooth, and so is the steering. Okay, very smooth on the hub. It also means that you can adjust the camber angle for the front suspension here by screwing in and out of the upper wishbone. The hub itself has an alloy wheel hex, which is a really positive upgrade in this sector, because normally I'd expect to find a plastic hex here, and they can come with all sorts of problems, not only coming off when you're changing the wheels and the pins and what have you, but you don't have any of that stress here. We've got an extra deep alloy wheel hex held on securely with grub screws. Moving round on the hub, you'll be able to see that we've got an extra hole in the hub, so we can move the steering arm forward, and that will essentially give you a choice of increasing the rate of response to steering inputs. Okay, so you've got two holes there. Coming up to the top of the shock absorbers, we've got a number of different mounting positions for the shocks, and this is the same front and rear. And then as you go into the top wishbones as they meet the car, you can just make out here there's a plastic tab. That's a shim that you can take out, and you can slide the top suspension arm forwards and backwards to adjust the caster. So looking at the rear end of the truck, we've got a similar pillow ball arrangement we had at the front end. Okay, so we can infinitely adjust and finally adjust the rear towing, and that's a really important adjustable feature there that heavily influences how the truck handles. Again, we've got the quality extra deep wheel hexes in alloy again, and as we move further up, we've got adjustable roll centers by these two positions, as well as adjustable camber positions here. So there's a really whole host of adjustable features on this truck should you want to go and experiment with setup. So here's our 2.4 gigahertz steer wheel controller for the Bug Crusher. Now I'm actually quite surprised that we have gone to 2.4 here. It's usually quite a step up in terms of the specification of a model, but here we seem to have it included on our standard truck, which is only a bonus for you guys. And essentially what it means is that you don't have to worry about running the model alongside other vehicles and worrying about any confusion over the control and interference and that kind of stuff. There are no crystals to change. You don't have to worry about losing control of your truck. You have the convenience of just being able to turn up, switch on and run and forget about it. One of the interesting other features about it is the fact that the aerial for the controller, you can see it's only about, well, it's less than an inch tall. You don't have a long extendable aerial on the controller, which, to be honest, they tend to get broken quite easily, so you don't have to worry about that here. There's no long aerials to pull out and get damaged. Okay, so that's 2.4, but the features that we have on the steer wheel controller are really quite good. We've got obviously the steer wheel control itself. There's a foam covering which is very soft, and so that's going to be nice and comfortable for extended use. We've got the pistol trigger for the acceleration and brake, and both of these functions are reversible, so you can control the direction that, say, the pull on the trigger, whether that's an accelerating effect or a braking effect. Okay, so you can do that. As you turn the steer wheel around, you've got a nice bunch of controls that allow you to bind the controller to the car, and that's a bit like setting up Bluetooth on a mobile phone. The first time you run this truck, you associate the controller with the receiver in this particular truck, and then after you've done that, you can forget about it. So those controls are there, and then nicely, and to finish it off, is the battery compartment at the base. Now it's quite a wide base on this, you can probably see there, so when you place it down, it's not going to fall over and damage at all easily, and the batteries being in the bottom, and I've mentioned this many times before, with this type of design it really feels nice and balanced in the hand. So a really great radio there to go with our superb truck. Okay, well that's pretty much it for the standard version of the Bug Crusher. If you like this truck, I'd suggest you check out the Pro version too. It's essentially the same, but includes a whole lot of alloy upgrades for really not a great increase in the price. So certainly have a look at the Bug Crusher Pro, but either way, whichever truck you decide, you cannot make a bad decision. So that's it for now, the HSP Bug Crusher, and you can get yours right here at nitrotech.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.